Hi, I'm Gray Cause of Adventures in Movement, and I'd just like to give you a brief introduction of what you can expect when you come along to our one-day women's running workshop. The idea of this workshop is to look at the various aspects of women's running that can help improve your form and your performance, and also obviously reduce the risk of getting injured. I'll be presenting the workshop with Anjali Bakrania from Pure Dynamic. As I say, I'm Gray Cause from Adventures in Movement. Before I run through the introduction, I'd just like to share this from one of our clients. I just thought that I would like to let you know that following a half-day workshop on Chi running, I've really been able to get the hang of it and ran my fastest half marathon on Saturday. But more than that, I thoroughly enjoyed it and it felt great afterwards. Thank you, Kathy. So just to give you an idea of some of the feedback that we're getting from our clients. I'm a Chi running coach, so some of the work that we will be doing during the workshop is based on Chi running. We look at the principles of Chi running, various simple principles such as alignment and relaxation of the body, working with the forces, the force of gravity in the oncoming road, moving with the bigger central core muscles, if you like, doing stuff gradually, and importantly, doing stuff mindfully, just being aware of your movement, of what is going on in the body. I also teach a technique called the oxygen advantage. The oxygen advantage is a breathing technique. Now, breathing is something that I feel is often neglected in a lot of fitness training programs. We forget about breath, or we're just told to take big breaths thinking we're getting more oxygen into our body. Actually, that is not the case. So we will spend a lot of time working on breathing, addressing our everyday breathing pattern disorders. We're looking to reduce that breathlessness during physical exercise because that will obviously improve your aerobic performance and, interestingly, improve our postural alignment. Depending on where the position of the head is, the position of the diaphragm is, that will affect your posture, and of course your posture also will have an effect on your breathing. We'll start off with a look at the history of women's running. Now, it's interesting to note that it wasn't until 1980 that the American College of Sports Medicine stated that there was no conclusive scientific or medical evidence that long-distance running was unsafe for the healthy, trained female athletes. So not until 1980, and actually between 1940 and 1972, women were banned from competing because of medical concerns. There'll be an introduction and a look at the menstrual cycle, how the hormones involved, the estrogen and progesterone. We will be looking specifically at estrogen and progesterone. We can see there where at the follicular stage estrogen is dominant, and then after ovulation in the luteal phase progesterone dominates. And how that has an effect on the female runner. Now, there are variable findings on the effects of hormones, but the consensus is that it will affect your breathing, they affect your bone density, body temperature, cardiovascular system, metabolism, and the muscle glycogen and the muscle strength. So there is an effect. The hormones do have an effect on all of these areas, and obviously all of these areas play a big part in terms of running. As I said, we're really going to focus on the breath, and it's interesting to note that progesterone stimulates breathing independently of the intensity of the run. So this can increase the perception of effort. So if we go back to the slide here where we're looking at after ovulation, when you're in your luteal phase, then if you're in the luteal phase, your breathing is going to be heavier. Independently of the intensity of the run. So then you add the intensity of the run on top of that, so it's going to feel harder work basically. So just to be aware of that. This is an interesting point that I present in all of my workshops, is to ask people what is the difference between a big breath and a deep breath. And we tend to find that people thinking of breathing deeply are taking bigger breaths, but actually taking big breaths isn't necessarily good for you. It doesn't necessarily deliver more oxygen to the muscles. So we will look at things like this. Is CO2 a waste gas? No, it is not. And the other thing that we'll look at in terms of breathing is to start with total nasal breathing. So this is 24/7 in your walking, in your running, in your resting. Anytime you can, just check in. It's something you can do now. Just check in and notice whether you're breathing relaxed through the nose or whether you've got your mouth open. And that there's loads of benefits of total nasal breathing, but just a couple highlighted there is it warms and humidifies the air and obviously removes a significant amount of germs and bacteria. We'll also look at the rhythm of breath, or now heart rate variability. So your heart rate may be 70 beats per minute, but that will change depending on inspiration, the heart rate goes up, and expiration, as you breathe out, the heart rate goes down. So there is a heart rate variability going on there. And we'll look at how maintaining a smooth, rhythmical breath rate, whether you're resting, whether you're walking, whether you're running, can have a big effect on hormones, on the adrenaline and the cortisol, and how that can have a big effect on your emotional state, and vice versa. So you can change your breathing to affect the emotional states, and the emotional state will affect your breathing. For example, if you're very stressed, the breathing tends to be chaotic, all over the place. If you're chilled out, relaxed, then the breathing becomes more rhythmical, more soft, gentle, and gently relaxed and paused on exhale. So much more rhythmical rather than sort of like a stressy, anxious, angered and frustrated breath. Estrogen plays a big part in terms of bone health in women. So we will look at your bone health and how, through proper postural alignment, we can help to strengthen the body. So if we're in an inefficient structural alignment, then we're going to overstress the bones and the joints. If we're in a good postural alignment, then we are going to actually put a good load through the bones and actually strengthen the bones and the ligaments and the tendons and the muscles. So running and walking with good posture will strengthen the bones of the lower body. Running and walking with bad posture, with an awareness of what you're doing in terms of your movement, will actually overstress the body. And exercises such as crawling, press-ups, kettlebells, all of these things, again done with good technique, will help to strengthen the upper body, because the upper body is the part of the body that we forget to work on. So running and walking will strengthen the lower body. It will also, to a certain extent, strengthen the spine if we're positioning the upper body efficiently when we're moving. Then we'll look a little bit more detail into some of the factors that can make us more energy efficient as runners. One of the key factors, again, which I mentioned at the beginning, is the idea of cooperating with force. So the force of the road, the force of gravity. If you're cooperating with those forces, get those forces on your side, you will make you more energy efficient. It's really going to reduce the risk of you getting injured, of overtraining or putting excessive stress and strain on the joints and the bones and the muscles. Nice little example here of the stride length. So that step in front, stride out the back, how we can avoid overstriding and we can cooperate with force there. And this is just a snap from a couple of videos of Kat, one of my clients, who is now a Chi running coach and an Oxygen Advantage coach. And we can see here in the same point of the stride, on the left, much more fluid and efficient, shorter step out front, just about to land, more mid-foot. So the minute she lands, the heel is floating up behind on the left leg, whereas on the slide on the right, much more of a reach out, much more sort of like a pendulum action of the legs. So there's going to be more force coming up, acting against her than acting with her in terms of that movement forwards. We'll also take time to look at the menopause and various different things, happen to the female body in menopause. Just one is the fact that your aerobic capacity, which is your cardiovascular system's ability to convert oxygen to energy, can drop from 5 to 9% each decade beginning in your 30s. Interesting to note that this also happens to men as well. But if you have a better aerobic capacity than you would do if you didn't exercise, if you are actually exercising. So even though, yes, your engine will slow down, if you start off with a better aerobic capacity, so you continue to exercise, then that is going to actually help. And there's plenty of inspiration out there of women's running, but we just have to look at some of the world record holders in women's running. Uta Pippig's 1996 win at the Boston Marathon, where she was grinning despite evidence of the menstrual bleeding and diarrhea. And 94-year-old Harriet Thompson, she made history as the oldest woman ever to finish a half marathon. So it really shows that your mental outlook can affect the proven physiological effects of the menstrual cycle and menopause. We'll also take some time to look at the female biomechanics and understand the pelvic floor and its vital role. How the pelvic floor muscles are responsible for stabilizing your pelvis and thorax during movement. And also how the pelvic floor is affected by pregnancy and how pregnancy can affect running, postnatal recovery and restoration. After giving birth, the ligaments and tendons are often stretched and overly flexible, so to be aware of things like that. So to conclude, I've given you quite a lot of information there, but what we're saying is if you're a female who wants to learn more about your biomechanics, the physiology and the psychology of running, if you want to learn the chi running and the oxygen advantage techniques which will help you build the foundations of good running form, and as a consequence this is going to improve your health and your fitness and your general well-being. And if you want to reduce the risk of injury, get more enjoyment from your exercise, then what have you got to do? Yes, got to sign up. If you want to book online, you can go to www.adventuresinmovement.com and you can email me on hello@adventuresinmovement.com and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you for your time in watching this presentation and I hope to see you soon.